From the School of Communications and Media Technologies at Academy of Art University, San Francisco, this is Com Careers Graduation Edition. Thanks a lot for joining us. Our guests tonight are two amazing women who will share their perspectives on getting a job by establishing what we call a personal brand. Some of you were in my class today, and we spent a lot of time talking about that. We're going to go in deeper tonight. It's really the key to job hunting success in 2018. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can get your questions in through the chat pod that we have set up. We will answer student questions during this program. Just search Com Careers on YouTube and our page will appear. Our social media queen, Alethea, is on Instagram and Twitter tonight as well. Hashtag Com Careers. We're happy to take your questions from there as well. Take a look at this slide. I don't want it to scare you, but this is the absolute truth. If you don't have a personal brand, nobody's going to work with you. You won't be able to get a job. But don't be scared by it. Be inspired by it, because I've got good news for you. You are halfway there right now, and we're going to get you all the way home by the time we're done. We're going to motivate you with it. Leanna Sparks is here. She's the founder of San Francisco-based Power Pop Communications. And Heather Young is here. She's a Com alum. She got her master's from us. She's a content creator, actress, and one of our favorite students ever. Thank you both for being here, and please give them a hand and welcome them. Thank you. Did you feel, when you graduated from here, that you were positioned correctly? Did you feel like the way that you were showing yourself online was correct in terms of what kind of jobs you wanted?
I think when I first graduated, I had an idea of what I wanted, but then the real world set in, and it was like, whoa. I think for me, I had a good idea when I graduated how to market myself correctly, what my strengths were, what type of personality I had, what I really wanted out of a job. I think through trial and error, I really learned how to fine-tune that.
Yeah.
And you also learned way more about yourself, which allowed you then to brand yourself better.
You did internships while you were in your program, right?
I did.
Oh, that's right.
did.
I was your internship supervisor. I forgot.
So long ago.
Right? Where did you do your internships at?
So I did it at a beauty clothing startup called Joyous. And they were a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun, but it definitely gave me real-world experience as far as what would be expected of me if I enter into, say, the corporate world or the startup world in video production.
So they had you do video editing. You produced short videos.
So we produced short form videos. We did editing. I did a lot of audio stuff. They tried their best to give you a well-rounded picture of what you would probably expect if you worked for a company like them or for them, because they were known to hire alums.
They hired a lot of Com students that went through there before they moved down to Los Angeles. So you felt that getting that internship experience really, really helped when you went out into the world then?
I would say internships, and then taking advantage of opportunities that are here within the department, but also really going out of your way to make connections with people, because when I graduated, I actually had a gentleman, Jimmy G. He was actually an alum here too, and he got a hold of Jan, or somehow they met, but I ended up being brought in by him to work in a studio here in the Bay Area. And that one connection led to 6 different other connections, and I still work with all of these people today. And that was only one person with one connection. So imagine if you take advantage of everything that is like thrown your way.
She's got a lot of connections. A few months ago, she texted me a picture of her and my best friend working some job somewhere. I go, how do you know that guy?
It's like, hey.
Right? Leanna, when it comes to human beings, how would you define the art of having a personal brand? What does that mean to you?
For me, a personal brand is being able to represent yourself, whether it's at work or in a social place or with your friends and family. You are still at your core the individual that you present in all atmospheres.
You went to UC Santa Cruz.
That is correct.
Now, when you got out of school, did you feel like you were ready too?
Well, I have degrees in film and digital media and literature. So when I got out of school, my intention was to travel. And I saved up money and I went and lived in Australia and traveled through like 6 or 7 countries in Southeast Asia. And then I got back in 2008, 10 days after the market crashed, rendering my humanities degrees and my life experience totally useless. So I had to sort of build up from there.
Mm-hmm. When you were searching for work, and it wasn't very long ago, were you looking for jobs or were you looking for people? That's an important point we're going to get to in a minute. Did you look for people or did you look for a job?
I was looking for people in the long term. In the short term, I was looking to make money, and I waited tables, and then I found the people that I wanted to work alongside.
Leanna has an amazing story, which we'll get to in a little bit, of how she got here and some of the things she's done, and it's really something. How about you? You've made a lot of connections, so it's obvious that you have searched out people and not necessarily positions, right?
Definitely people, especially in the creative and the communications world. It's all about how well you work with each other and what you bring to the table and how well you're able to collaborate with others.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about So She Slays.
So She Slays is still a baby, but it turned from a blog to a website, and it's a women's empowerment website. And we have contributors all over the world. It's only been alive for about a year and a half, so we've just gone through a rebranding now that we have a little bit more of a focus. And yeah, I mean, it's doing wonderful. It's provided lots of opportunities for us to meet other women who own businesses or have blogs, or even some famous people. I got to interview Jennifer Rudolph Walsh, and she is the head of the, if I can get this right, William and Morris. She's like the head of the editorial department for books, and she was to work with Ariana Huffington and Oprah Winfrey on their books and that kind of stuff. So it was really cool. I got her ear for a second and was able to talk to her for a little bit. So it's definitely opened some doors.
William Morris has just rebranded into a different name, and they're a talent agency, and they work with entertainers, authors, and such. So, okay, you don't have to share any inside stuff, but why did you feel that you had to rebrand So She Slays? Was it not communicating what you needed it to show the audience?
It was too broad. It was too broad. We had too many different categories and then when we took a step back and kind of looked at it, it really just boiled down to a couple of categories versus, say, like the 8 we had. It was really only 4 that we consistently created content for.
Yeah. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I don't know if I made this up, but I guarantee you this is how you're going to be successful online. Niches get riches. Eyeballs mean nothing in 2018. You got 10 million likes in your post, doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you've had any engagement. People like something, they move on. They haven't engaged with it until they've clicked on it, and then the next step is taking an action on your website or wherever you're sending them. Facebook and Google dominate all of the large majority of online ad revenue, and to make money, you have to be special. You have to be interesting and you have to be unique. Now, a person can do that really easy because you, me, and you are all different people from different backgrounds, but with something that is good and special about us. And you can do this. And I'm going to remind you one more time, when it comes to your brand, you're already halfway there. We're going to get you all the way there in just a second. So, what else are you working on besides So She Slays?
It's about 5 different other things.
She's always been a hustler.
It's always busy. So other than So She Slays, I am the project manager of the Bacchae Temple Museum, which is a project I started right before I graduated here, and we're now on year 4 of the project, but 3 of the actual construction of the temple. And I did it through a Kickstarter campaign, and then we raised about 24 grand through Kickstarter, another 24 through private donations, and then 50 through a state grant. And then it's all about preserving Chinese history and their part in the gold rush and what they did for California.
How did Power Pop Communications come to be? What was your big brainstorm?
Sideways and at 60 miles an hour. Basically, in 2015, somebody handed me a vape pen at a Snoop Dogg show, and I was just blown away by the fact that the cannabis culture that I knew, in my early 20s and late teens had evolved to that point, and it was packaged and branded. And I mean, I got home and I went to the website like right away, and I realized that with my experience, running communications for Burning Man, that there was just a natural opportunity within the cannabis
You
space.
should back up though one step. You started as an intern for Burning Man, right?
It's true. The first thing I ever did for Burning Man was sweep the floors and clean the kitchen.
They have an office, a corporate office.
Yep. I went through 4 offices. Basically, moving to San Francisco, like I said, in 2008, I realized that I had to get some office experience if I was going to get a real job. I had TA'd and taught English as a second language and done all that, waited tables for many years, but I had no real office experience. And so I moved in via the power of Craigslist with someone who'd been to Burning Man before I had been, and he said, hey, you want to go to an office party? And I said, sure, and I wound up chatting with someone who worked there, and I said, I'd love to come in and volunteer. And he was like, oh, you want to help clean up after this party? So the next day I was in, and pretty quickly I went from being a volunteer to an intern. Within a year it was volunteer, intern, contractor, part-time employee, full-time employee, and worked there for 7 years.
That's a good story, right?
That's a really good story.
So I interrupted you. How did you get to form the company and start working with clients?
Right. So I served as the director of communications for a gentleman named John Battelle, who was the founding editor of Wired magazine. And while I was working there, like I said, this vape pen came into my hands, and Burning Man is the largest private event held on public land, so we work with federal, state, local regulators and insurance and the whole thing. And with the legalization of cannabis, I just saw a real opportunity to sort of like cross-pollinate between regulators and stoic, stodgy individuals and the more artist types. And for me, a good brand has a social good component, whether it's cannabis or otherwise, but cannabis has so many opportunities for that social good in a myriad ways. And so my initial push with Power Pop was to focus just exclusively on cannabis, but it really quickly became clear to me that what I really cared about was social good, and it opened up the doors for me to work with sort of anyone.
Noble work. And for real world brands and organizations, products and services, they need to develop a reputation. There's something called domain authority. That just means that Facebook.com, everybody knows what that domain is. I'm getting a little geeky here, but it's part of optimizing search and all the things you do to generate brand memories and to be rememberable. But how do real world brands expand their presence? What kind of things do you recommend your clients do?
I would call it dynamic marketing. Power Pop is, the name is inspired by a musical genre that's 3 instruments driving rhythm. And I think that in order to make a splash in today's day and age, you really need to think holistically between digital marketing, traditional press relations, influencer relations, and events. And even though I'm more than happy to silo off those 3 offerings for my clients, depending on their goals, they always really want all 3.
So She Slays feels like a really good vehicle for events.
We are currently
on
our way. We have a few later on this year that we're finalizing, but yeah, I totally agree with all of the above.
I have a couple of my students in here who've heard this in lectures before. We're just reviewing some of this material, but you can do all sorts of things with events. Getting sponsors to buy in, you can sell tickets for this stuff. It's a great way, but just a great way to market an event as a product, or use the event to market a product, whatever your choice is. So what do you do besides events to expand the brand? What else are you looking forward to doing or planning on doing?
We do a lot of collaborations, like I said, and that definitely helps to find your social influencers, especially for our website. We partner a lot with, well, we partner only with women, but we tend to find our influencers in certain departments that we're hitting, whether it be health or fitness, lifestyle, beauty, so on and so forth. So I think the influencers, partnering, cross-promoting definitely helps us.
What advice could you give to a student who's getting close to graduation, who's worried, who's a little scared, and doesn't know? But you said yourself you didn't really know. You knew that you were good at some things. You're good on camera. You're good behind the camera. You're good with social. How can they quiet their head down and kind of get to focusing, which means just getting to the answer, not deciding, oh, I found my passion, because that's really hard to do. It comes from work.
It totally comes from work. When I first graduated, I thought I had this whole thing figured out. I thought everything was just going to align because I was a hard worker and I had, a portfolio and all this stuff of my work. But that is the exact opposite of what happened. I actually spent 3 months just applying for every single job imaginable, and it just I hit rock bottom, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong, this and that. But honestly, to this day, I still say it was the best thing that could have stinking happened to me. I always tell people to just continue to push, don't give up when you're faced with all the no's and the rejection and all that kind of stuff, because it is, the power. What's that law?
The law of large numbers.
Well, that too. Okay, so that works. But yeah, no, I would just keep going. And even, I think too, a lot of people have not realistic expectations when they come out of school. I was one of those. I did not have a realistic expectation. I was like, I'm gonna, apply for this high-end job at Apple and they're gonna love me. No, that is not what happened. So have some realistic expectations. Don't expect to be making a lot of money right out of the gate. You got to prove yourself. You proved yourself in the academic world. You proved yourself here at the Academy of Art, which is great. Now you know how to do it. But now you have to be a part of a bigger fish tank full of a lot of other people who've been doing it a lot longer than you. So the only thing I can say is don't expect too much. Go out there and my first gig was a PA gig. And I still do it. I still do it. If it means that I meet new people or I'm part of different projects, you're not too big to take anything. If you're sweeping floors, you're sweeping floors. But you don't know where that's going to take you either.
You can speak to this. As long as you keep doing things, even if you're not getting paid for it, in the thing that you're interested in, things start coming towards you. Yeah. That happened to you.
Yeah. Networking, it's an opportunity to build trust with individuals. It's not about really what can you give me, it's what can I give you. And the second that you enter into the experience from a service perspective is the second that people really start to trust you and they start to give you other opportunities that build upon those. They start to connect you with friends and individuals that they know that can utilize your skills or utilize your passions in a new way that you may not have even seen as an opportunity, but it's right there thanks to the power of the network.
The power of the network, and I think you would both agree to this, the power of the network is not asking friends to do you a favor, it's being generous. It's introducing people to things, it's sharing content with people. If you're hanging around with artists, you're gonna vibe with somebody and something's gonna happen. Hey, could you help me with this? And the next thing you know, you're doing a job, right? Okay.
That's exactly how that goes.
I told you earlier that you were halfway there, so we're gonna do the payoff now. In the process of creating your personal brand, this is why. Look what you've already done. You have content that you've created already. It may not be a super professional reel. Your resume may be a little messy. We can clean that stuff up. That's the easy part. But you have the content that you need to show your audience online what it is that you can do, and that is how your personal brand is created. The reason why that ominous slide I put up earlier, if you don't have a brand, no one will work with you, it's because it'll just be too easy to skip a person that doesn't have proof of their work online in different places to see it, because you can't have a resume that says, oh, well, I know how to do this stuff, and they ask you in the interview, well, can we see several examples of how you did it in real life? And you say, well, no, and then it's not going to work. Because everyone else will be doing it. It's just going to be the way that jobs and internships are found, because they're going to be proud of you, and they're going to be impressed by the work that you've already put up. How important is Google or Bing in marketing yourself? Do you use AdWords and Google Analytics and stuff?
I use it for clients.
Use it for clients.
Yeah, definitely. But for my own sales strategy, my pipeline is all, for the most part, word of mouth. I have a really big network of individuals thanks to my work at Burning Man and just thanks to all my experience over the last 10 plus years. So people recommend me, and I mean, I got a random phone call from the city of Santa Rosa a couple years ago, and hey, we heard about you from this individual, and do you do digital marketing? Because we need some help with digital marketing. You know, and I was like, who is this? I'm in the middle of a meeting right now. Can I call you back in a half an hour?
Digital marketing from a phone call. Yeah. How old school.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
But you've created positive results for your clients. They tell other people. That's just how that works. Do you use the Google dashboard to promote your website and stuff, or are you working on it?
We do. We actually just did, I think we're like 4 months into Google AdSense and learning all that material, excuse me, and what that can do for us and that kind of stuff. I mean, I think part of it too is just, if you want your brand to succeed, is to take advantage of all those tools and learn how those tools work and can benefit you. It's definitely not my strong suit. There's a good reason why I have a business partner.
Sure.
She loves all of that stuff,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, I can tell you like some basics and she explains things to me, but I've also learned that she has her strong suits and I have mine. So.
Well, that's perfect. Someone needs to do the profit and loss statements. Someone needs to go, hey, I got a great idea.
That's exactly how that works.
I just want to float this because I don't really have the answer to it, but in my COM 202 class today, we actually talked about this. I want to show you something. Should we consider this? Get my slide back up there. Those of you that work in this business know what this is. This is the marketing funnel. The marketing funnel describes the process to which someone finds out about you, becomes interested in you, decides to engage with you, and then later becomes a fan, a follower, or a customer. Awareness, interest, desire, action. So I wonder if you could look for a job with Google AdWords. Could you? The search results would come up that if you buy Google AdWords, which don't cost a lot of money, it's a few bucks, if someone searches up video editor, would your LinkedIn profile show up at the top?
Potentially. It all depends on how many times and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like depends on how many times you've been clicked on before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the algorithm gets stronger as more and more people engage with it.
And I won't go on the weeds in Google Analytics. I'm just saying there's lots of opportunities, ways to be found and to put your stuff. You can do it by personal networking, but there's also that internet that may work out. Melly Mel checks in with a comment online. She says, so you have to be aware of what's going on. You search up companies to learn about what they do. Okay. How do you do that for your clients, Leanna? That's what she wants to know.
So identifying target markets basically involves not only understanding the milieu that they sit in, but also understanding who their competitors are, who potential partners are, that kind of thing. And then identifying target opportunities based on researching their social followers, how they use social media, what their voice online is, not just in social, but on their website, et cetera, press hits, that kind of thing. And really, like I said, before, thinking about how they use digital, traditional, and live events, and whether or not they would be a solid partner for the client.
So we'll reset this and make it real simple. We're talking about a whole bunch of different things, but I think we could agree that the bottom line is make content, make sure it's good, put it on different places online, follow up, be generous, share and network with people. Don't ask everybody you know. There are some people you can ask, will you do me a favor? Could you introduce me? Of course. But you can only do that so many times with so many people. To become memorable through networking and creating a brand that's strong, you need to add things into the funnel. You need to keep putting stuff out there. Have you updated your reel lately? See, now I'm putting you on the spot.
I know. I'm like, you're putting me on the spot here. I updated it about maybe a year and a half ago.
Yeah, okay.
So I mean, it's relatively recent. I've definitely done other things since then.
So let me get you another question here. This is Sammy4 on Twitter says, how important should we rank LinkedIn? How important?
Very important.
I would say very important, even though it's probably my least used. I mean, but I guess it's my least used because I don't go there daily searching or interacting with things. I keep it updated. I keep everything current as far as jobs go, especially if I'm getting ready to work with a company or a client or something like that. I'll hit the LinkedIn as well as their website to see what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, for me, LinkedIn is one of the key ways that people connect with me, especially because I'm open about working with social good companies, but focusing on the cannabis space. I've gotten major brands that reach out and want to connect through my LinkedIn profile.
You're smart to do that too because it's doing nothing but growing. We see it in the Bay Area. I see it in SAC. It's exploding, and
It's huge.
and you know, without getting into the politics, it's getting more popular and more normalized. So okay, we know that posting a resume to a corporate job site, and hoping for the best, friends, is the absolute worst way to do this. It is where your dreams go to die in a black hole of nothingness. Is it okay to post on a corporate job site? Oh, yeah, okay. I'm not going to tell you not to do it, but you know why it's bad, and you know why it's bad too, is because you need to get to the hiring manager. You have to get to a human being. And if you have to do it by mail, by phone call, by email, by any means possible, you're actually not breaking the rules by doing it. You're actually impressing the hiring manager. Would you like to offer a take on that?
So when the Super Bowl came to San Francisco, I applied for a director level job, and I was shocked to get an interview. And I basically had like 10 interviews with the Super Bowl for various positions, met with the CEO multiple times. But it was really all about, like you said, that interpersonal relationship. And I feel like the way that I wrote my cover letter was personalized to the position. But I also had somebody in the wings who was saying, hey, this individual is awesome and you should talk to them. I didn't wind up getting the job, and like you said, there's perseverance is a big part of a job search, but it's also the opportunity, seeing in it instead of challenge, seeing opportunity.
Mm-hmm. This is probably worth mentioning, and you did address it a minute ago. Your comm network is a strong network.
No, it really is. I mean, there's times that, I've contacted you, I've contacted Jan. I'm looking for an editor, a videographer. I need someone for this event. Do you know anybody? Because I mean, that's kind of how I got started. You guys were nice enough to mention me to certain people, and so I was, reaching back down and hopefully bringing another comm student back up.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's important to note you have to be worthy of the request that you make. If we know you're working hard and we know you care, we're going to have your back because it's going to be easy to do. Makes us look good. Quite honestly, makes you look good. It's a win-win for everybody. Question from Dell, online student watching tonight, says, what do I do when I want to be on camera and be an editor? It's hard to be all things to all people. You want to take that one?
No, it isn't. You are going to have your strong suits. On camera will always be a strong suit of mine. I love being on camera. Being in front of the camera is probably where I feel my most comfortable. But I also film, and I also produce, and I also write scripts, and I also edit. So especially if you're trying to get hired, I would say in a startup, in a corporate world and that kind of stuff, it really helps to be a jack of all trades or a Jill of all trades, because of the fact that they're going to expect you to at least know how everything works and what your job entails and how it affects everything else in the pipeline. So yes, you can be everything to everyone. Is it a lot of work? Yes. But the amount of work can never scare you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, at Burning Man, I wore probably, easily 75 hats. And as my time there progressed, and as I was part of the team that grew the event from 35 to 70,000 people, so that was the time that I was there. And the event sold out for the first time in 2011. I left in 2014. When I took over media operations, we had 150 press outlets covering us. When I left, we had closer to 700. The strategy work that I helped develop really shifted the narrative of the event from crazy party to innovative arts community, which of course allowed it to be more successful in all different capacities. And that wasn't just doing one job, that was doing a lot of jobs and knowing how to do them and being able to strategize how they fit in, whether or not you were doing the task or you were just managing somebody that was doing the task. You still had to know at the end of the day the task from A to Z.
The great thing about having a comm degree, which makes us, in my opinion, one of the more indispensable programs at this university, is that a comm student, like you just said, all screens, all industries, all businesses, in all locations. That's not being too general. That just means your work can be anywhere. I took a person that works here on the street. She gives the campus tours. And I said, how's it going? She was good, good, good. I grabbed her by the shoulders, and I spun her around. I said, her name is Maureen. I said, Maureen, look down the street. Hotel, Jamba Juice, Starbucks, sandwich shop. Every single business, they need a graphic artist too. But you know what else they need? A comm student to make the videos, to do the social, to do the writing. This degree works at so many levels. Now, you would agree, though, that being a Jill of all trades is a great thing, because once you get inside the company, you're going to prove your value by going, well, I can do that, and I did a little bit of that. But when you're applying for one specific job, it's important to note that you need to represent yourself as, I am a great video editor, and the job I'm applying for is video editor. Thoughts?
No, definitely. For me, it was, what's a multimedia specialist? And I'm like, well, let me just list all of these bajillion things that I can do. And it really was to my detriment that I wasn't so specific in what I was very strong at. Because, like I said, when I first graduated, I wasn't quite sure where to go and what to do. So I was just like, well, I can do A through Z. Just pick one. And it didn't help. They were really, if they're looking for an editor, they're looking for an editor. If they're looking for a producer, they're looking for a producer. It's when you actually get hired and get in is when, like you said, you can be like, well, I can help with this and I can help with that. And then you become indispensable, which is totally something different.
When you get in. It's a natural tendency in an interview to want to please them, to show them, well, I can do lots of stuff. But they're actually, in our example, they're only looking for a video editor. And do you have proof that you are actually a good video editor, and where can I see it? And that's where the personal branding stuff comes in. Do you have a couple of reels? Did you make an on-camera reel and a behind-the-camera reel? Tell me about why that's important.
I had both. Well, because my in front of the camera reel was really strong. I did a lot of stuff here at the Academy that allowed me to have a very strong on-camera reel, which is great. But there wasn't a whole lot of positions unless I wanted to be a news reporter, and I wasn't completely sold on that job. And so I believe my last year here, I did a sports show called Sports Night, and that in itself kind of unleashed like this beast of, oh my gosh, if I can do this one day where I can produce and write and be on camera and do all that jazz. So I actually took a lot of that content and then a few jobs after I graduated and made a whole producing and editing reel out of that.
Yeah. And also a reminder that for each company you apply for, I know this stinks, but you have to have an individualized resume, because if you're applying for a video editing job, you have to stress all of the editing you did. If you're applying for a job as a community manager / social, you need to emphasize the sort of projects or internships or whatever you've done. You can have a master resume. That's what I always advise. Have a master with everything on it, and then pull the things you need to specialize it. But now, touching on LinkedIn just real quick before we go, I think what forget her name here, what she was asking is, a LinkedIn profile has everything on it. It's not very specific. So that can be a little bit confusing. If you worked at different industries or did different things over, let's say that you've worked for a couple of years, well, that's not being razor sharp in your branding. So what do we do with our LinkedIn? Do we just put everything on there, or see that? And especially if you're not really positive about what you want to do, you can get in your head and now go, I don't know what to put on this thing. Just think out loud about that for a minute.
I mean, I kind of have a lot of, I mean, you can kind of say it falls under the whole multimedia brand, just because, I mean, if you go look at my LinkedIn profile right now, you're going to find that I'm a content creator, a co-founder, a project manager, an editor, a multimedia, you know what I mean? Like, but all of it involves media and video production. And that's kind of funny because a lot of people are like, what exactly do you do? And I'm like, well, I just do a lot of video production and media stuff.
Okay.
For me, the topper part of LinkedIn is very valuable. So, you really get into like the nuts and bolts of the tasks that you did while you had title X at company Y for, a certain number of years. But the topper part, you can really say who you are as a person, and that's your opportunity to be yourself.
And I think I just kind of figured it out in my head, too, to the question. Sure, LinkedIn has a bunch of different things on it, but if you have your own personal website or another portfolio that emphasizes only this skill, see, now you're branding. You send them there to look at it. By default, every recruiter, LinkedIn is a place to be found. It's not a place to look so much. Does that make sense? LinkedIn is a place to be found by recruiters and people who are looking to hire you. So sure, they know what's on a LinkedIn profile, it's all there, but you might want to target your on-camera skills or something in another location, your own website. It can even be a free one. It doesn't have to be a fancy. Yeah. You could make a Wix or a Weebly website. You did that, right?
I think mine's GoDaddy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was relatively simple.
All right. Well, on our way out the door here, give them some advice in general. We've talked about the benefits of a brand and how it makes you specific and makes you unique and makes you special for what you do. Students that are taking COM 495 and COM 690 this semester, that's our Get a Job class, they're getting ready with getting their reel ready and getting their resume ready and everything. And I'm going to meet with the classes before the spring show, our annual spring show comes up, to just kind of go over it one more time about how to do it. But what advice could you give?
Don't give up would be the number one. Perseverance is definitely important. But also know that your brand is going to evolve over your lifetime, and you don't need to commit to who you are at 22 or 25 or 35 or 75. You can change. And if you see something that inspires you and it really calls to your core, let that be your path.
Heather.
No, I'm going to totally agree with all of that. And the fact that to remember where you are now is not where you will be forever, that you will hit your transitional periods, you will meet other people. Don't think that just because you accept your first job or the second job that you're offered, that's just where you're going to stay forever, because that's just not the truth. And it's not going to be your one and only job you will ever have. It's not like it was when my dad went to, college and graduated and was at the company for 35 years.
Sure. Yeah, a couple thoughts out the door. Don't worry about passion. It's going to come. Passion is when you discover that you like something, and then you discover that you are good at it, and then you do it, and then passion starts being developed. It's not a light bulb that's probably going to go on in your head where you go, I am now this, just like you said. And it's going to evolve as you walk down that hallway of life. Every once in a while, a window opens. And it won't happen very much, whether you're 25 or 55. And sometimes you got to jump through it. You just jump through it. I have a good bet that you will land on your feet. Leanna Sparks is the founder of Power Pop Communications in San Francisco. Heather Young, SoSheSlays.com, and a bunch of other things. Thank you, ladies, very much for your advice and help, and thank you for coming. Good night and good luck.